You wouldn't want to be Iran right now. Your allies are being toppled, your proxies are weak, and your people are struggling to make ends meet. It's a dangerous moment for the Iranian regime, arguably their weakest point yet. Let me tell you about the latest problem, an energy crisis. An energy crisis in Iran. Tens of millions of Iranians are facing power disruptions, that too in the middle of winter. Temperatures in Tehran are close to 0 degrees, so imagine having no power. The government has also shut down certain operations like schools, offices and banks. 13 power stations have also been shut. The idea is to conserve power. On Monday, the shutdowns led to a protest near Tehran. People blocked a main highway near the capital. They also burnt tires on the road. I know this may sound a bit strange to you. Iran has the second largest natural gas reserves in the world. Also the fourth largest crude oil reserves. How can such a country face power shortages? Because the industry is underdeveloped. You see, having reserves is not enough. Those reserves have to be extracted, they have to be processed, and finally they have to be distributed. And that's where Iran struggles. Their power industry is plagued by years of corruption, plus Western sanctions prevent modernization. And the result is this: shortages and blackouts. This has a domino effect on Iran's economy. Industries need power to function. Vehicles need fuel to transport goods. So power shortages drag the economy down. And it's happening at the worst possible time for them. Because Iran's economy is already struggling. Their currency, the rial, has dropped 10% since last month. Look at the exchange rate. $1 equals 777,000 riyals. $1 is equal to 777,000 riyals. To put that in context, in 2015, it was just 32,000 riyals. And this was during the nuclear deal talks. Inflation also remains high. It was nearly 50% in May 2023. It has gradually dipped to 37% this year, but still it's way above acceptable levels. Reports also say that 30% of Iranians live in poverty. All of this can be largely traced to one problem, and that is sanctions. You see, Iran cannot sell its oil in the open market. Only a handful of countries buy it. China alone makes up 90% of Iran's oil exports. If the sanctions are lifted, Iran could sell oil to more countries, meaning more money in their coffers. But there's a problem. Iran must pause its nuclear operations for the West to lift sanctions. Basically, Iran must agree to not build a nuclear bomb. In 2015, they did manage to strike such a deal. But then came Donald Trump. First, he pulled out of the nuclear deal, and then he reimposed the sanctions. Now he's back, and chances are that he will pick up where he left off. Unless, of course, Iran agrees to negotiate to give up its nuclear ambitions. That's what Joe Biden wants as well. His Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has said that it's been a bad year for Iran. He wants the regime to focus on its people.
There's no doubt this has not been a good year for Iran. One choice it could make and should make is to focus on itself and focus on trying to build a better, more successful country that delivers for its people, which is clearly what most Iranians want, and to stop getting involved in these adventures or misadventures throughout the region and beyond.
It sounds simple enough. Focus on your people, rebuild the economy, don't pursue the bomb, and the sanctions may be lifted. But here's the problem. Iran's regional position has weakened considerably. In Syria, it has lost an ally in Bashar al-Assad. In Lebanon, its proxy Hezbollah is struggling. In Yemen, the Houthis are under attack, and in Gaza, Hamas has been dismantled. So Iran's regime is pretty vulnerable right now. It has already been attacked twice by Israel. With Trump's encouragement, they could go further. The Israelis, they could go further. So Tehran finds itself in a tough spot. Do they pursue the bomb to protect their regime? Or do they seek sanctions relief to help their people? Both options are fraught with risk. And Iran's supreme leader knows this. He tried to send a defiant message this week. This is what he said.
With the actions taken in Syria and the atrocities committed by the Zionist regime and the US, as well as the support they are receiving from others, they thought the resistance has ended. They are heavily mistaken.
Frankly, Khamenei himself is part of the problem. He's almost 85 years old. Rumors are spreading about his health. Last month, some reports said that he was in a coma. So naturally, there are questions about his succession. Who will take over after him? Khamenei has not picked anyone yet. But his son's name has been doing the rounds. It remains to be seen if the people of Iran will accept him. Because remember, this is not the 1980s anymore. Times have changed. And we saw an example of that in 2022. Iran's morality police picked up a 22-year-old woman, a woman named Masha Amini. What was her fault? She was not wearing a hijab properly. Her death triggered nationwide protests. We saw portraits of the supreme leader being attacked. So clearly, the society is changing. But does the regime realize that? Recently, Iran's parliament passed a new dress code, a new law for the dress code. It called for harsh punishment if women expose their hair, forearms, or legs. Iran's president opposed that law, and this week they decided to pause its implementation. This tells you about the internal tussle. The hardliners still dominate institutions, including the military and the Revolutionary Guard. But young people in Iran want freedom, and they're not scared to take on the regime. If these two groups clash, anything could happen. The regime may try to avoid that. But as we've seen this year, revolutions can grow out of nothing. And Iran, of all countries, should know that.